Welcome back to the channel. We're back with another Final Fantasy Commander deck profile with Sin, Spira's Punishment. We did another deck profile of this commander on the channel. This one is a bit more budget-friendly version of the deck. We try to keep all budget decks under $150. Like I said, a bit more budget-friendly. Still not the most budget-friendly. But there are cards in here that are like $5 or more that you can always remove, put some extra lands, put some extra removal, in order to run a deck on however you'd like to run a deck. But overall focus of this deck is in order to get lands into the graveyard, in order to get them out of the graveyard with Sin's ability, in order to then have all of our landfall abilities happen. We also have ways to get the lands out of the graveyard in order to make sure that when we want to revive a creature, we could revive a creature instead at random. But that's the general overview of the deck. Let's get into it card by card. We have Head Shredder. When you attack, mill 2. It is a vehicle, so you do have the crew ability. Whenever it lands put into your graveyard from the library, put it onto the battlefield tapped. Like I said, we have plenty of ways that we would like to have benefit off of lands entering the battlefield. So let's do it. Perpetual Timepiece, mill 2 cards. Let's mill, get those cards into the graveyard, so we have more things to revive and more options out of that. 1 second. Soul Ring for additional mana. We don't really run the Signets in this deck just because we have so many landfall abilities in here that we tend not to need to. Zera'n Orb in order to get those lands into your graveyard, so we can use Sin's ability. Sometimes someone's running a Doughty Voidwalker, which will exile all of our creatures. So this way we'll have only lands in our graveyard. We can keep using Sin's ability, keep getting those abilities off. We tend to do creatures next, but let's do sorcerers next since we're over here already. Buried Alive, in order to get creatures into your graveyard, sometimes we want those creatures fast, so let's get them into the graveyard so we get them right away. Calling Ritual, bit of a board wipe for weaker creatures, along giving you plenty of mana. Cultivate for those additional land drops, explore for that additional land out of your hand. Same thing with Farseek. Glimpse the Unthinkable. Target player puts the top 10 cards of his or her library into the graveyard. That's going to tend to be us. This is a cheaper version of Into the Multiverse that you could run for this card as well. Not in terms of dollar amount, more so in terms of mana value. But Into the Multiverse is a good card for this one as well, to mill yourself 10 and get a creature out of everyone's graveyard. Kodama's Reach for additional land drop. Life from the Loam. Sometimes we're going to want to revive a creature, so let's get some lands out of our graveyard in order to make sure we get that creature instead of a land. And this way, if we do hit a land, we'll be more likely to hit a creature next time. Malevolent Rumble. Top four of your deck. 1 into your hand, rest into the graveyard. Get yourself a token. Oh, just some good mana ramp there. Rampant Growth. A little bit of land drop ability. Treasure Cruise. Once again, we're going to want to have a little bit of control over what's in our graveyard so we know what we're reviving. So Delve will help out with that a whole bunch, allowing us to banish the things we don't want in our graveyard for a little bit. Adrix and Nev Twin Casters. We're gonna be having tokens enter the battlefield. We're not copying spells, so this will allow us to create double those tokens. Avengers Zendikar. One of the best landfall abilities, giving us plenty of tokens, giving us plenty of +1/+1 counters onto those tokens. Really a big swing for the game at a certain point. Deranged Assistant, some good mill abilities, looking with a little bit of extra mana on top of that. Eternal Witness, sometimes we'll definitely want something out of our graveyard, so let's just choose what we're getting rather than having it be at random with Sin's ability. Floral Evoker, whenever land enters, get a +1/+1 counter, discard a creature card, return land from your graveyard to the battlefield. So let's get that creature that we want to revive for cheap out of our graveyard, along with getting a land drop, or landfall ability. Hedron Crab, let's mill ourselves in order to get some things into the graveyard to have revive with Sin. Lotus Cobra for that additional mana. Lotus Light Dancers, put a whole bunch of creatures into our graveyard. This way we'll have plenty of things to revive with it. Milliken, just a little bit of mill. Where were we? Muldrota, we don't always have to do things at random. Sometimes we can control what we're casting from our graveyard, which honestly, this might be a better commander to put Sin in rather than put this into your Sin deck, but it's up to your choice. Nyx Weaver, a little bit of mill for yourself. Exile this creature. Return target card from your graveyard to your hand. We mill the thing we want. Let's get it back. Rampaging Bailout's really good landfall ability. He has plenty of tokens to swing on our opponent with next turn. Reclamation Sage, a little bit of removal there. Oh, mouse is acting weird. Ruin Crab, land enters the battlefield under your control. Each opponent mills 3 cards. So it's not necessarily as good as Hedron Crab because Hedron Crab can mill ourselves. But Ruin Crab, if you're at a certain point where you'll have, I don't know, something that'll put all your lands back onto the battlefield, or we have just lands in our graveyard and we have like 20 lands in our graveyard, we could potentially mill our opponent for 60 because this will keep happening with Sensibility. Sakura Tribe, it's never really going to happen, but it's a possibility. Sakura Tribe Elder, allow us to get that land of our deck. Scoot Swarm, I mean, you're playing landfall, you may as well. So DC, Brood Tyrant, whenever he enters Mildry, we get cards into our graveyard. Whenever creatures put it into your graveyard from your library, get a zombie token. Mill, creatures to your graveyard, zombie token. All the things we want. Skull Prophet, that mill ability, that Mana Dork ability. Spring Bloom Druid, let's put a land into our graveyard so we'll have something to hit with Sin's ability. I almost forgot what commander we were doing. Sir Conrad the Grim, whenever creatures put into your graveyard, you deal damage to each of your opponents. You also get to mill yourself a little bit, both of which could be helpful depending on where you're at in the game. Tato Farmer, put target land card in the graveyard, then that was milled this turn onto the battlefield under your control, giving us a little bit of landfall ability with that. Along with own landfall ability, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may get 2 rad counters. Which rad counters will help us mill ourselves, but will also potentially deal enough damage to, have us lose, so be careful with that. Tatiova, Bentic Druid, good landfall ability, gain a life, draw a card. We need plenty of draw power in this deck as well. Taval, the balance scale. The mill ability is really good, creating zombies is really good. We're going to do a whole bunch of that, so I'd say that almost $10 is worth it for this card. Same with Gitrog Monster. We're going to want to get lands out of our graveyard, so let's have plenty of ways to do that, along with plenty of ways to draw cards. And then Tireless Provisioner, get those treasure tokens while we're at it. As always, like I said, if you want the more powerful version of this, make sure you check out the more powerful version of this set, which will have cards like Ancient Green Warden or the other Tireless. This was Tireless Provision. I forgot what the other Tireless card is off the top of my head. But yeah, like I said, make sure you check out the other deck profile for that. Awaken the Honor Dread, a little bit of mill, a little bit of removal. And whenever you may discard a card when you do return target creature or land card from your graveyard to your hand. Get the things we want out of our graveyard back to our hand. Deadbridge Chant, mill ourselves for 10. Get those cards that we want out of our deck into the graveyard. And then another way to get random creatures back onto the battlefield. Retreat, landfall ability giving our creatures some bonus power, along with burning our opponents just a little bit. Spelunking, we have plenty of cards in here that'll say put target land onto the battlefield tapped, so let's have it so it doesn't enter tapped. Titan's Nest, at the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into your graveyard, basically surveil one. Exile a card from your graveyard, add some mana, only cast spell with X in its mana cost, which we're not really going to do. It's mostly the surveil that we're using this card for. Let's scroll on over to the second half of the deck. There we go. I don't know why the Swiftfoot Boots and Lightning Greaves keep getting separated. Then for some removal, we have Beast Within, Counterspell to counter a spell so that we can protect our own stuff. Enters Restoration, or you get those additional land drops. Factor Fiction, some cards into a graveyard, some cards into your hand. We need both of those things to happen. Frantic Search, sometimes they give us the cards we don't want in our hand, so let's draw some new ones and discard those ones. Grappled Up with the Past, Mildry, you may return a creature or land from your graveyard to your hand. We do that. We do like getting stuff out of our graveyard. Grizzly Savage, mill 5, get a card back into your hand from those. Growth Spiral, a little bit of draw power, a little bit of land drop ability. Harrow, get those extra landfalls. Negate for another counterspell to counter a spell. Otherworldly Gaze, Surveilledry, allowing us to get some cards into the graveyard. Flashback to do it again. Putrefy, a little bit of removal with that. Rakasha's Bargain, choose what cards we want off the top of our deck in our hand, which ones we want in our graveyard. It's really nice to be able to choose. Rolling Regrowth for that additional land drop ability. Second Harvest, I feel like this is a must include in this deck in order to get those additional tokens of all the tokens you're going to be creating. And then Thirst for Discovery, draw 3, discard 2. Choose what cards we want in our graveyard. As always, we go over lands last. Renin 7, mill some cards, get your lands into your hand, your creatures into your graveyard, depending on what we want where. Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots, since Sin's ability happens when he attacks, we're going to want him to attack the turn he comes down, so we may as well run both of those to give him haste. But yeah, as always, just like to say thanks so much for coming to the channel, like, comment, and subscribe, so you can make sure you stay tuned for future videos, or check out our channel for some other deck profiles that we have from the Final Fantasy set. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of the day.